Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Dawnbringers, Heart of Nightfang Spire, Season 4, Episode 13. This episode is entitled The Calm Before. We'll see what it's the calm before as the episode unfolds. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. It's good to have everybody here. We had a little bit of an unplanned bye week last week, but all seems to be well again, and we are back. In just a moment, we will have a bit of a recap to bring you up to speed on where we left off. But first, a couple announcements. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner below our friend Yesferatu the vampire, you will see three icons, one for Jasper's Game Day, one for Initiative Coffee Company, and one for Talon and Claw. If you type !Jasper in the chat, you will see a link. This is a brand new link for Jasper's Game Day. This link takes you to their new giving page. Instead of landing in the PayPal donation page, there's a little bit more options and I believe an opportunity to sign up for a newsletter and for information. But Jasper's Game Day is an incredible organization dedicated to raising awareness and education about suicide and suicide prevention through tabletop gaming. And they do a lot of great work. I am very pleased to be working with them, not just in May for our week-long streaming event, but I will be hosting in just a few weeks at the end of the month. I'll be hosting a couple of games, one of which I will be running for some people right here on the channel. That'll be on Sunday the of August. I don't remember which date that is. But it's the last one, the last Sunday. But and if you want to know, actually that's a good point. Thank you for reminding me, Jeremy. If you want to know more about what Jasper's Game Day is and just who Fenway Jones, the founder, is, check out on Erasmas Expeditions. Jeremy just had an incredible couple-hour interview with Fenway. I was able to catch some of that. Jeremy's Help Action show is an incredible podcast show that he does with, I've had the honor of being on there as well as a few of us. So is everybody shaking their head? Have we all been on there? Oh, Dan.
Everybody except Dan, because I can't ask him.
But
you can ask. Put pressure.
Well, yeah, I'll try.
Right.
At some point.
But it is an incredible show. You should absolutely be following them anyway. And you can learn more there, as well as checking out everybody else's social medias. But yes, taking it back to Jasper's Game Day, it is a wonderful organization, and through that link, you can donate directly to them. Another way that you can give to them is if you type !Coffee in the chat. You'll be taken to a link where you can purchase Metade Roast Coffee, a special blend available from Initiative Coffee Company's Help Action, no relation to Erasmus Expeditions Help Action. For every 12-ounce bag of that coffee that you purchase, $3 goes to benefit Jasper's Game Day. So head over there and get yourself some coffee now. Finally, from those icons, if you type !MTD Claw, the link for Talon and Claw, a sponsor of the show, our sponsor, who makes incredible, because I haven't done this in a while, MTD Claw. There we go. It was the new, Jeremy was trying. They are our partner and sponsor. They make incredible things like dice vaults, game master screens. They've been doing some laser engraving and some dice trays and just all kinds of cool stuff. And if you use code MTDClaw at checkout, you will get 10% off your purchase. And that also helps to support the channel. So be sure to check that out. Now, I've been seeing the notifications go off here for a couple of things, so I need to make sure that we get you these domain dice. Tamiko had over on Twitter had a poll going to see if people can guess how many domain dice y'all are going to burn through tonight. So we'll see how that plays out.
Plus.
But domain dice, as you can now see up above V and Dan there in the upper right hand corner, those are a way that you, the viewer, can have an influence on what goes on in the game. For a $5 tip, for a 500-bit cheer subscriptions, such as what just came in, starting up a hype train, that's another domain die that I'll log in a moment. They allow the players to re-roll dice, make me re-roll dice. They give them access to hit dice outside of healing. They can turn failed death saves into successful death saves, and they can turn hits into super crits. So let's see. I want to make sure you guys are getting full credit for what you have here. You're now at 81 domain dice. So that's how those work. Let's see. Oh, there was another thing that... Okay, what just happened? Did we just get blasted with 5? You guys are going to keep me busy with domain dice right off the bat. I need intern Dwight.
I like the special effects.
I need intern Dwight just to come in here just to manage the domain dice. So thank you, everybody who's subscribing and for those gift subs. That's incredible. And of course, in addition to domain dice, that all goes to support the channel. There is one more thing that I want to tell you about that's coming up really soon. It's not a sponsorship, but it will be presented here on Mini Terrain Domain next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from noon to 10 p.m. Eastern. I will be producing and hosting at Conline. It is Absolute Tabletop's online convention. The games that will be showcased, games and panels will be showcased for right around 10 hours a day for 3 days that weekend, right here on the channel. It is tied in with a fundraiser. There'll be more promotional material coming out this weekend. But in addition to that, people in the community are going to be running games all weekend on their own channels, and all of that information is going to be consolidated. I don't think it's quite there yet, but AbsoluteTabletop.com will have a segment of their website where you can see where all of these games are going to be taking place and watch them. But you can also come here to Mini Terrain Domain, where you'll see special presentations from Absolute Tabletop, from the founders there, what products and projects they have that they're working on, some really cool panels. I know DBJ from Critical Hit is hosting a panel, and I know that we have quite a few games from people in our community and people that have been here on the channel running games. Will be running games during at Conline. So you'll want to be sure to come back here next weekend to check that out. The last thing, of course, is the most important, and it just is perfectly timed with the scroll at the bottom of the screen. You can come here to Mini Terrain Domain anytime you need it and type the word !help. We know that things can be rough, no matter what condition the world's in. It can be difficult sometimes, and that's exponentially so these days. That people struggle. Mental health is something that I'm trying to do my part to help destigmatize. There's no shame in seeing a therapist. I see a therapist. I talk to them about anxiety and depression. I talk openly about anxiety and depression on whatever platform I happen to be on. So please know that there's nothing to be ashamed of if you need help. And that's why you can type !help here to bring up the information that's also going across the bottom of the screen. Here in the United States, you can call the National Suicide Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or you can text 741-741. If you are active duty military or a veteran, you can press the number 1 after calling that number and talk to a military specialized counselor. It is a also noteworthy that there's the Canadian phone and text lines there, as well as a URL you can follow to get to worldwide resources. So no matter where you are in the world, you can find the help that you need. Please do not hesitate to use that help. Thank you to the very generous staff in TJ who has just tipped $25, buying you 5 more domain dice. The viewers, do not like to see you below 100 for very long. So, let's go ahead, and Spike just dropped 10 more 10 gift subs, making sure that you are not below 100. You are now at 101 domain dice to start this. Thank you again, everybody, with your generous subscriptions and donations and all of that good stuff. Actually, real quick, it's worth noting, if you have never subscribed, right now Twitch has a thing going on that there is a discount. I think it's 20% for your first time subscription. I just glanced over. I have no idea what's going on in the corner over there. The usual V and Jeremy shenanigans, I guess. So since they're so eager to play around, let's get into this actual Dungeons and Dragons session. So when we left off, the Dawnbringers were very, very deep into a deadly encounter.
Ass beaten.
Yes.
It wasn't pretty.
Very much so. There was an Elder Fire Elemental. There were 4 Fire Myrmidons. They had just discovered that when they took down a Myrmidon, that a flaming skull armed with Fireball appeared in its place.
Like they do.
2 of the Dawnbringers had fallen unconscious, Griveth and Talmud. Drown made a quick decision, running back to get the Dawnbringers all within range, as he utilized the Helm of Teleportation that he had claimed as a treasure from defeating the mummy a few levels before. Thinking hard about the deck of the Evangeline and not knowing for sure what would happen, Drown cast Teleport. And that is exactly where we are going to pick up. It is worth noting, because this was noted at the end of the last session, that all of the Dawnbringers were within the range of this teleportation. But their companion, Yesha, the human they had rescued when they first arrived, she was far outside the range. And when she turned the corner, there were no Dawnbringers. We see now from high up in the sky, we see an island, a single isle, dotted with very colorful trees, the leaves in pinks and blues and purples and oranges. This is, of course, the Feywild. Docked a couple hundred feet off the shore of the white sandy beaches of this small island is a familiar looking sailing ship known as the Evangeline. As we pan down through the thin clouds towards the deck of the ship, where we see some of the crew moving about, we see Victor the spectator hovering around barking orders that nobody's listening to. There's a sudden loud popping sound and a clatter of armor and weapons and bodies as the burned and bloodied Dawnbringers crash to the deck. Alarm bells start ringing immediately, people jumping out of the way to see what is going on, as all of you have just landed. Griveth unconscious right at Drown's heel. Talmud nearby, also unconscious. and some of the crew begin running around. Somebody, one of them comes nearby and just looks in shock. What is this? You barely left. You've been gone but 15 minutes. What has happened?
How many?
It's I can't be certain, but it's less than a half an hour for sure.
And from our perspective, we've been gone for hours.
You've been gone approximately 2 days.
We did eventually somewhere take a long rest.
We did.
You've taken at least 2 or 3 long rests.
15 minutes.
Aye.
So I think Thorgarn was probably just like initially just collapsed to the ground, coming out of his rage and whatever have you. But he kind of looks over and sees, I think I went to Talmud at the end of last, so he would go over to his cousin and cast Cure Wounds, but it takes a bit of effort to get him moving.
Already the crew is word is rapidly spreading through the ship, and I have, just as a side note, because in the last session I couldn't find my notebook that had all the crew. I was wrong on a couple of accounts on the names we said. Velitha is actually one of the brother and sister duo that you rescued that stayed behind in Saltmarsh. But the elderly gnome, Madame Thela, is one of the people to come forward, as well as Matilda, the ship's surgeon, and the quartermaster Giselle, and several others that are just sort of gathering around. There's a handful that are arms and hands, wrapped around rigging as they look down on you all. Matilda comes in immediately to begin looking over wounds. Drown, you have Griveth right at your feet.
Yeah, I believe I just poured a potion of healing.
Yeah, and you sort of
down his gullet.
You toss this empty bottle to the side, with the sound of the empty glass rings on the deck as it sort of spins, and a boot just stops it, and momentarily, and then kicks it out of the way. And this is Matilda, the ship surgeon, rushing in. Already her kit over her shoulder, she slaps it down on the deck and unrolls this leather satchel full of surgical instruments, salves, potions, and begins looking over Griveth just as your eyes are sort of fluttering open. You received a small amount of healing from this, so you're very groggy. I had you after last week's session, I'd had you roll on the lingering injuries chart, but you rolled well enough that the magical healing is already sort of pushing aside any lingering effects. But all of you are feeling in pretty bad condition. There's much confusion as Matilda kneels down and begins pulling out salves and starts to loosen some of your armor, loosening your gorget, however you say that, around your neck, and starting to loosen your pauldrons, get to where some of the really bad burns are, applying salve. And she's looking around. You've barely left the ship, and already you've gotten yourself nearly killed. Madame Thela kind of comes up at this point, looking at all of you. What is it that has happened of such danger in such a short period of time?
You all keep saying that. We've been gone for days. I think where the ship is anchored is playing with your perception of time.
We went to the islands, went through a portal, went to a tower, spent some days killing some dead stuff, and then fire kicked our butt. That's the short version. I sit back down.
You've been gone for days, you say?
Yes.
She is going to... Thorgarn, you're the closest. Madame Thela steps forward, and she has this... She uses this wooden stick that's barely 18 inches. She's, you know, a gnome. She's diminutive. She uses it to walk with, and she just sort of taps it on the ground and causes it to bounce up a little bit, and she uses the hook of the cane to sort of pull your... She hooks it around your wrist deftly and sort of pulls your wrist, your hand toward her, and immediately begins to scan your palm, looking over it. And then she...
It's covered in burns, sweat, grime. It's nasty.
And she does not even hesitate with her other hand to touch that, running, sort of tracing the lines through the blood, the soot. And then she looks around at all of you. She glances over at Matilda and just sort of nods. It is true. I don't know how this can be. I would like... Dan, roll me a d12.
It's a 2.
Okay. Madame Thela begins walking around, looking at all of you. She stops next to you, Fig. Are you as well affected by this bizarre distortion of the perception of the passage of time? Has your keen mind been able to discern the true passage?
I think Fig probably has some sort... I imagine that he has some of these, like, almost filled gauges with that same blue magical liquid that he can just kind of pop open on the side of his arm and look at these gauges. And I would imagine that they would probably just say the same thing that he had perceived this long passage of time. And he just... It would appear that there is something amiss, even in my sensors.
This is certainly something that we're going to have to get to the bottom of. But first, you must all rest. And she turns and begins calling out to Eleanor, Max, Fane. Come, help them. And some of the deckhands, a couple of the larger men and women come forward to begin helping, in particular Griveth and Talmud. As Eleanor comes forward to help Talmud, she leans down to sort of help start to pick you up to your feet. And you hear this tremendous cracking sound, followed immediately by a secondary cracking sound. As she leans towards you, Talmud, one of the deck boards right near you splinters. Her foot breaks through, and her momentum causes her leg to snap. She drops down next to you, her foot still kind of caught in this space, her leg bent at an awkward angle. Immediately just this is and Matilda just comes running over to kind of pull her broken leg out. This is when it rains it pours.
I didn't do that.
Eleanor just kind of reaches over, though she's wincing, she kind of pats you on the arm. You're not the only one with a reputation for clumsiness, it seems.
Is there a way I can try to help? Kind of pull her leg out, or
Matilda had just come over and sort of kind of pulled it out.
she did get it free, okay?
And has it kind of laying on the deck. And she's probably, I think Matilda's pretty quick thinking, so she's already used the broken plank and is laying it below the break and wrapping some torn shreds of cloth to create a makeshift splint. And she just tells her, "Wait here. We will do. I will come to you after I deal with the others." So everything's kind of coming at you very, very quickly. So I'm going to flip it back around to the Dawnbringers and let you all sort of have some opportunity to interact with the crew and each other and what's happening.
I imagine that Fig would be calling over Hermes, if he's there, to fetch him, because I imagine that his ligaments, like the things that held some of his moving joints together, are very, very melted and corroded, and that's how he's showing his injuries. And so I can imagine that he would call over Hermes to give him some very basic instructions to start getting some tools to begin fixing himself.
The Thorgarn, when the crew was helping take armor and that kind of stuff off, he's doing that as well with his own. Everything is, filthy and nasty. We've been surrounded by death, sweating, all of that nonsense of combat. But the bracer that, almost everyone in the Dawnbringers has, he takes the Dawnbringer bracer off and puts it to the side. And once he's down, he takes a moment and he goes over to Drown. So, Drown, might I have a moment, please?
Just kind of nods. He's sort of shrugged off the big, oversized, threadbare sea coat that he wears and is sort of looking at some slashed and charred rents in his leather armor and bleeding through it, starting to deal with that.
So I said that, I was going to have to get you one of these. I pushed the my own bracer, handed out to you. You saved our skins, and it's not anything that I would be able to do. And if something got in your head, you definitely need this more than I. And you have definitely proven yourself one of us time and time again. I will eventually get one for myself, but I think it is only right that you have this.
If you're certain.
I am.
So he takes it, looks at it, and nods and starts to buckle it onto his arm.
Ted, do you remember, or anybody, did I make a homebrew item for that?
I don't believe so. It's just a basically legendary resistance that allows you to pass a wisdom saving throw once a day that you fail.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Wonderful.
The homebrew was actually Ted. Ted and I worked on that together. I just meant, did I make the item so you could add it to your character sheet?
I don't believe there was one in.
Okay. I couldn't remember. All right.
So one question: when the deck plank broke out from under her foot, did that seem just like just a sort of happenstance wood crumbling, or was there anything strange about it?
Give me a perception or investigation check.
I will definitely do some investigation. 15.
You noticed that more so as Matilda is taking and moving the plank around and positioning it under Eleanor's broken leg. Where the board is cracked, normally, even especially with the deck of a ship being constantly covered in pitch and sealed against the elements, that the interior of the wood should be bright and almost new looking. It is porous and it is gray. Both where the wood cracked and on the board, it looks rotted.
All right, Drown is going to take his staff a couple, like 3, 4, 5 feet away from where that happened, and lean his weight on the staff down on the plank of the deck.
Before you even put all of your weight on it, you feel give. You feel flex.
So he's not going to say anything just yet necessarily. He's actually going to go below decks. He's going to sort of snap his fingers. The staff vanishes in a spray, a kind of burst of sea spray, and he heads down below decks. He's going to go below the water line and see how the wood of the actual hull planks is looking down there.
Okay, so you're going down not just to the main hold, that first level. You're going down to the lower hold, which also houses that
down into the bilge.
Yeah, that's down where the most of the cargo is, and where that special room is that you all broke into, etc. So you just Drown turns on his heel and vanishes below decks. We'll come back to you, Drown. Griveth, what about you? Drown has healed you. Suddenly you're turned over to Matilda's care. Matilda is just dressing your wounds and has sort of loosened your armor anywhere it looks like the burns are, where some of the healing potion seems to have dealt primarily with internal injuries and stuff. You still have a lot of burns. What are you doing?
Griveth is just he's laying there, allowing her to dress the wounds in this this kind of thing. But he's kind of like, if you look into his eyes or his face, he's kind of not there. Like he's thinking back to like what happened in the battle. Like he legitimately like thought this was the end, right? Like he was floating towards the gates of death. He was in the void, floating to, heading to the gates of death. And then it's like, like a yank back suddenly into reality. And I think he's disoriented. He this was kind of his heroic death. This was like his heroic act. And now he's laying on the ship, badly burned. We've been defeated. And yeah, it's just, he's trying to process this, I think. So he's just quiet. He hasn't said a word as he just lets her tend the wounds.
What about Cantriel?
Seeing the state figures in, she'd be over there right away and just start using mending, trying to help repair the damage that was done. And she's more looking back and forth between everyone else and at the crew members and just sort of muttering to herself, Feywild and time, and sort of almost like reprimanding herself for not thinking this might have come into play, having come from the Feywild herself.
And you're able, as you're casting mending, it kind of gives you something to focus on as you grab Fig's elbow and you see that the elbow joint isn't working very well. Excuse me, isn't working very well because parts of the joint have melted together, and you maybe even see some of that blue liquid kind of seeping through. So you're able to concentrate and almost basically magically sort of weld and shift the metals of this of Fig's construction around. So it takes you a little while of focusing as Hermes is coming up from below decks, just passing Drown. Hermes does this as he's sort of doing the tuk, 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 tuk. His upper body just sort of pivots sideways while his legs keep moving forward to allow Drown to move by, as he's just and begins moving across the deck. Talmud, what are you doing?
I think Talmud is very quiet at the moment. I don't know where it was that he was being taken, if there's an infirmary on the ship or what have you. But he's wherever he has been kind of laid out in like a bed or a hammock or what have you. I think he's actually turned over onto his side and has his back kind of to the remainder of the people, and he's just not really talking much at all.
You have been to the infirmary because Matilda treated you for your seasickness on your first day aboard the ship.
Very familiar with this room.
And so you're kind of brought in there along with a couple others. Eleanor, surprisingly, sort of half walking on this broken leg. She's too stubborn to let anybody help her too much. But you hear, even as you turn your back, you hear her wince as she lays down on a cot near you, and you hear that sort of as she elevates her leg and just says, "Well, that was something."
I'm sure it hurts, but if you can make it through the night with it, I'm sure that Thorgarn or someone will patch it up for you in the morning.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. Honestly, this is the third time I've broken this leg.
Wow.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, this time it should maybe take away some of the limp that I had previously. I think that's how it works.
It's good that you can keep good spirits about what you've been through. A lot of people, when they suffer that kind of an injury, they don't usually get up right away.
That's true. But I hear that you and the others have suffered a few injuries more than once, and yet you always get up and you go right back into it.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do, I suppose, and I imagine tomorrow we'll probably do it again. And he kind of falls quiet again.
Talmud, roll me a d12.
7.
Fig, as Hermes is moving across the deck, and you hear the familiar sound of the tuk, 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 of his feet moving across the deck. He seems to have this way of moving that you see the shifting in his legs, but not his upper body, as his gyros have sort of adapted to being on a swaying seaborne vessel. And as he moves forward towards you, you hear Cantriel's muttering in your ear, and everything seems to get muffled. And you don't normally blink, but you blink. And where Hermes was standing just a moment ago, you see a drow, a dark elf standing there. And you hear this familiar yet not familiar voice echoing through your head as you feel as though you've just stumbled to a stop. You look around and you see you're on a narrow path in a cavern between stalagmites rising from the floor. The dark elf that was Hermes turns to look at you and speaks as he continues moving forward. With me as your guide, you have not to fear, Githrai. And then he stops. He turns around and notices that you're not moving. Suddenly, his eyes grow wide as he looks at you. And a very focused look crosses his face. In one swift motion, his bow is off his back, an arrow already knocked, and he aims it at your head. The arrow looses. You feel the flight pass by your ear as you hear a sort of wet splat and the sound of the arrow ringing through the cavern, and you hear something heavy fall to the ground behind you. Turning around, you see the body of a large spider lying dead on the ground. The venom of that spider could fell the greatest of beasts, the dark elf explains to you. As I was saying, we need to be very careful. And then you hear the voice sort of transitions back into Cantriel's voice. And you blink, and Hermes is looking at you, and he's standing there, and you just see his head go as he's sort of just looking at you with this curious non-expression on his form.
Would Cantriel have noticed this? I know I'm asking, but still.
Well, you would, not just because of your insane passive, but your close proximity and your you've seen this before. You've already experienced Fig going through this transition, and for just a moment, Fig's posture changes again. He becomes less rigid. His movement somehow becomes more fluid. And for just a moment, that blue fluid, as you're repairing one of his wounds, looks like blood.
Fig.
I think for a moment you would not receive a reaction from Fig as he is looking at something really far away, and you would almost see that his head snaps like almost like behind you. He's not looking at you, he's looking at something behind very, very quickly, and then you see his head kind of twitch a little bit, and he turns his head back to you, and you see he's silent for a few moments, and it happened again.
This is more than just visions. And she'll sort of lift her hand and show the blood on her hand. This isn't mine.
And there is actually blood on Cantriel's hand, and a small smear of it across your arm.
I think you would immediately see Fig take out his hat, rustle around in it to have some sort of small little glass vial that he would kind of take. He would offer it for you to kind of like scrape your finger against to collect some of it. There was a drow I saw.
Were you back at the tower?
He shakes his head. It was the same, a cave that was both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. It called me Githzerai. I do not know what that means.
It's not exactly a language I'm familiar with. It's definitely something to make note of, though.
I think, if I recall, the last time Fig had heard this word, Drown was the only one who had heard the term Githzerai, and it had been in passing with no connective anything to it. It was just that's a word I've heard once before, kind of thing.
I know that I had that realization about the term limbo.
Oh yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
it
It
was
was limbo.
Yeah, I don't think it was Githzerai.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a couple weeks. It's amazing what 2 weeks does to your memory.
Right.
Plus, this week has been about 17 days. Okay. Thorgarn, what are you doing?
So once he, gave the bracer to Drown, he's going to finish taking off his armor. Everybody's stabilized. Everybody seems, for the most part, to be like segregating a little bit. He still has a design, a vision in his head. He's worried about that, tower that we left. That was scary. That was, challenging. But he has to assume that, he can trust his team, he can trust his group, and that we're going to find a way once we can all put our heads together. But he wants to kind of do a ritual. So we all have bunks, right?
Yes, you all had rooms previously.
So he's going to stow almost all of his gear. He's going to take out some rope. He's going to dive into the ocean for just a moment to get rinsed of everything. It's the closest to really being clean that I think we could get at this point in time. And then he's going to lay out a spread. He's going to turn Forge Fane into a hammer, light a couple of candles, go through a couple of prayer sequences to Moradin, and then he is going to reach out to Father Greffin and find out if he can speak with him about a few things.
One thing you would notice, Thorgarn, is as you dive down into the water and you spend a few moments using the salt water to scrub away the dried blood and the soot and everything, and feel the sort of tropically warm water already beginning to work its magic and soothe you a bit. As you climb up the ladder on the side back up to deck, you notice that the Feywild has grown difficult to see. There is a mist, a fog that seems to be rising up. It's still visible, but it's muted, and you can't see very far. And you notice that all around the ship, at a distance of about 100 feet or so, a fog seems to be rising up. Thorgarn, roll me a d12.
Dos, 2.
Okay. Drown. You've made your way down through the decks. You get down to the lower deck, and you know that at the bow of the ship is an area that's used partly for storage, but there's also an access hatch in there to get down into the bilge itself. This far down below deck, the only illumination would be dark vision if you have it. So you're seeing everything in these tones of black and white and gray. Or no, wait, we've established this, that you don't see that. I keep forgetting that you see everything.
Perfectly normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you're heading down there, when you come down the stairway that leads, it's sort of in the midship area that sort of leads down into each deck. You come down into this lower deck and begin to move towards the bow. And you've been down here before, obviously. This is where you got knocked on your ass when you took the purple worm poison opening that door. And you look back and you can see where that door is. And there's still a lot of the long haul provisions that are stored down here. There's the barrels, several barrels. There's a few pallets that have been bound in cloth, burlap, and tied with ropes that are tied down. A few crates, a half a dozen coffins, a couple empty barrels.
Coffins?
Yeah, you notice that there's some coffins in the hold.
Did we load coffins on this ship when we readied it to put out to sea?
You did not.
Uh-huh. So Drown was sort of making note, paying a little attention to things like the handrails, the stairs as he was making his way below the decks, ladders if there aren't actual stairs. And he was starting to make his way towards one of the provision barrels to open it up and see what the state of the contents are, but he stops and looks over between the crates and sees the stacks of coffins, just shakes his head and walks over toward them.
All right. Looking around, now that you've seen these, there's, on the one side that you're looking on, there's 6 coffins that are in sort of leaned up against the side of the ship. They've been tied off, like that they are secured.
Secured.
There's another 6 on the other side.
Okay, so there's 12 total that I can see.
Mm-hmm.
Do they look familiar at all? Do they look like the coffins from the Spire?
I mean, only in so much as they look like coffins. They're nothing special.
Are they just like plain pine boxes?
Yeah, they're pretty
Do
much
they have
plain
any
pine
sort of-
boxes. They look aged, and they're humanoid sized.
Are they sealed, like nailed?
They are closed. You do not see that they appear to be sealed against opening.
I'm going to open the nearest one.
You open the coffin, and inside, we'll find out what you see in just a moment. We're going up to deck. Cantriel and Fig, you have sort of kind of stayed near. I imagine just where you were. There's a couple of crates and barrels that are up on the deck, and you've just sort of absent-mindedly seated yourself on one of these crates, Cantriel, as you've continued to mend on Fig, maybe even to get a little bit better. There's a big molten gash across Fig's leg, so you're sitting down, and those of you that are still on deck, which at this point I think is only Fig and Cantriel, Hermes there, you hear a sound, a splintering sound far overhead, and a loud crack, followed by and one of the crew members, a younger man by the name of Robin, lies in a broken tangle of bones, rope, and a piece of yard arm as he has just fallen from high atop the main mast. Crew begins running around to see what's going on. What do you do?
I go over to see if he's still alive.
I think would follow closely.
you quickly rush over there, and before you even get to him, the growing pool of blood under his body tells you that he was killed on impact.
I look up at the mast.
Looking up, you don't even have to squint. Everything now seems to have sort of a grayish cast as the fog has also seemed to turned into low-lying clouds. So you're looking against this gray, cloudy, blank sky, and you can surely see where high up near, it looks as if Robin may have been stepping into or out of the crow's nest. And there's a transition from the rat lines up to the top where you sort of would grab hold of this yard arm and kind of move into the crow's nest platform. And that's where this has broken off. And you can see the splintered, jagged edge of where the edge of this yard arm was secured.
I think Fig would look over to one of the passing crewmen, or even one of who was kind of watching or gathered. He'd kind of touch him on the shoulder. Just have accidents like this been happening often?
I'm sorry, who did you say that to?
Just some crewman who was there or gathered or watching.
It's a middle-aged half-elf woman named Eloise. She's pale, looking at you and looking in horror at Robin's dead form. What? No, this... Like we said, everything was normal. You left to go on the island, and then 15 or 20 minutes later, you showed back up. We haven't had time for anything to go wrong and until you came back.
Fig just nods. He wants to go back over to that plank that broke, and very carefully is going to try and look at it closer, like look at the jagged edges to see if he can like see anything, or even like in the wood, even if he has to not go close to the actual plank, but he would just go like almost kneel down and just look at the wood of the ship, look at the mast, just look to see if he can see anything, while also casting detect magic.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an investigation check. I will tell you that you do not detect anything magical other than any items that you or Cantriel have in your possession.
I got a 23.
The wood looks very porous. It looks like where the splinters are, you know that very particular lumber is used in the construction of a ship. You know this from all of your reading. And that hardwoods with density are used. This looks like basswood, like balsa wood. It feels that way. If you reach out at the splinters, it just comes apart in your hands.
I think he would take apart one and bring it over to Cantriel. Does the Feywild change things like this? And he would show her this like brittle wood that now makes up the ship.
The Feywild can do strange things at strange times. Not exactly one familiar with its effect on ships, though. Could I do a check on it to see if it reminds me of anything, Jake?
Sure. I'd say you could do a nature check.
Okay. All right, that is going to be a 16.
You definitely don't have a particular knowledge or experience of a specific effect influenced by the Feywild. You know, as you said, the Feywild, because there's so many Fey entities that are at play, it's almost unpredictable the effect it can have on the material plane. But you do know that what you are seeing is a mixture of, it almost looks like can't think of the word. The only thing that came to mind was the old Calvin and Hobbes transmogrification. But it definitely looks almost like the wood has been transformed into a different kind of wood. But it also looks very much like you would see in deadfall that has been lying on the forest floor for a very long time. It's soft. It's become porous. It's less brittle than it is just soft and fibrous. Like any structural integrity of the wood has been completely compromised. Fig, roll me a d12, please.
11.
Drown. You open up the coffin. You look inside, and it's empty.
Anything at all?
Nothing. It's completely wooden interior. There's no soil. There's no remnants of anything in there. For all intents and purposes, it looks like a coffin that was constructed new at one time, but has never been filled.
Old and weathered and rotten now?
It definitely has
Just
a
like
weathered
the
appearance.
wood upstairs?
Not the same as the wood upstairs. It doesn't look like it's rotten and aged. It just looks like it's naturally aged.
Okay, just looks old. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so Drown will just kind of set the lid back down and then head over to the hull. He should be below the waterline now. If he's on the lowest deck, he doesn't have to crawl all the way down into the bilge, and he's going to go very carefully sort of examine the hull and see if it, like, can he push his fingers into the surface of it? I mean, I've dealt with termite-eaten wood, old, papery, dry, balsa-like rotten wood. It doesn't take much.
Yep. Go ahead, and I'm going to have you make, we'll basically divide it into quadrants, and you determine if you're going to move clockwise or counterclockwise around the edge of the hull, and just do one check for each quadrant.
Okay. In my head, Drown went to the port side.
Okay.
So he'll start going to the bow, which makes him going clockwise.
Okay.
First check is going 22.
Okay.
15. 22. And final check, 21. Damn.
All right. So as you're making your way around, you actually, as you kind of start to investigate, and you remember, that you were also about to check the food stores that were right in that area. You do smell a strong odor coming from one of the barrels that contains the food stores. Would you interrupt your whole investigation to check that out?
We're
or would
going
you
to
keep
put a
going?
momentary pin in
Okay.
the food. I'm going to make sure we're not going to sink into the ocean first.
So
Like he stops, catches a whiff of it, just sort of closes his eyes, tilts his head, shakes his head, and then goes back to focusing on the hull.
all right, you begin moving
Back to
along.
you.
Are you pushing your hand into the wood? Is that what you're doing, or
Very
your staff?
gently, like
Yep.
like seeing if there's you not using the staff, using fingertips to see if there's any give, if he can, like, I mean, so when I was growing up, we found our house had a termite infestation that the sellers didn't tell us about, and I watched my dad push his finger through a beam that was holding the wall up. So
Yep, I too
that's
have
the
seen
sort
this.
of thing that I'm that I'm afraid of at the moment.
So you move to the hole and you press your palm very gently against the thick
Flex fingertips.
wood, yeah, spreading it out so you're not putting too much pressure in any given point. You barely touch the hole and you feel a spongy give.
What the
And the hole,
is this even
it actually, you feel when you pull your hand away, you see moisture in your shape of your handprint on the wood. You continue around everywhere you check. The whole of the ship seems to be just as compromised.
Well, I'm just going to assume all the food is bad, and we're not going to worry about that at the moment. So Drown is headed back up to the main deck.
Griveth, you had also been taken down to the infirmary, and Matilda had kind of brought you off to the side, and also on the other side, Talmud, you're sort of she's kind of pulled a not really pulled a privacy curtain, but just kind of set up one of those it's sort of a divider, and she just says, I'm gonna need you to strip down. I need to look over all your burns. She kind of says the same thing to Griveth. Griveth is more severely burned. She actually has to cut away some of your undergarments where and some of the padding and stuff where the blisters and everything were, as you're physically in pretty bad shape. But she begins to dress your wounds and apply a healing salve to various strips of cloth, and essentially is covering most of your upper body in a poultice, and you feel the immediate soothing sensation. You're still in this kind of detached state, whether it be shock or just a bit of almost a sort of depression of, having this heroic death yanked away. And she's just kind of moving around. You're barely aware of others in the space with you. I need you to roll me a d12.
Oh, it is a 1.
Okay. Almost immediately, somebody comes running into the doorway very quickly, slaps her hands on the side. You need to come to the deck now, to Matilda. It's Robin. He's fallen. And she sort of just looks and, oh boy. And she takes off running. And it's just a moment later, Cantriel and Fig, you see as Matilda comes running back up to deck and comes running over and kind of skitters to a stop. And by this point, Victor is hovering nearby and is unusually quiet. And she looks around, and then she looks to you, Cantriel. What's happened?
Something broke up there and he fell down here.
She glances over at Victor. Victor, two of his eye stalks are looking down at Robin's dead body. One's looking at Matilda, and one's looking, it's looking from Matilda to you, and then one's looking up. And then suddenly all 4 eye stalks look upward, and he just floats up towards the top to investigate where the break happened. Drown, you were moving up from below decks. Where was your destination?
Main deck, although if I find Talmud and Griveth in the infirmary first,
Unless you go there
Probably stop
deliberately,
there.
it's sort of in its own room, its own cabin at the stern of the ship.
Did I know they were being taken?
You would have known they were
Participate?
going there, yeah.
All right, well then they're being tended to, so I will probably go up to gather whoever is still ambulatory at the moment and try and gather all the Dawnbringers in one place. So I'll start rounding up people from the top decks down and gather everyone in the infirmary.
And Thorgarn, you're actually not that far away from where the infirmary is. You're just across the hall. Drown, as you're moving toward, you come up from below deck and you start to move. You kind of take a step towards the infirmary area and the cabins, and then you kind of get this in your head. No, I need to get everybody and bring them down here. You hear a sound from behind you below decks. The sound is difficult to place. It sounds like, to you, a lot like water spilling down the side of a cavern wall. It sounds like the sound underwater that seaweed makes in a seaweed field as it brushes up against itself. But it rapidly grows louder and becomes accompanied by sharper clattering sounds and also by a very high-pitched squeaking sound.
I snap my fingers and call the staff of the sea back.
Just in time to watch as hundreds of rats begin swarming up from below decks, swarming around your feet, climbing past you up to the next deck. Rats begin, some of them are, there's so many of them, they're spilling towards, you would hear Talmud, you hear Eleanor just kind of go, the rats. And Griveth, maybe distantly, you hear this as several rats sort of make their way into the infirmary. Thorgarn, you're sort of just getting into this meditative state, and you also see rats. Cantriel and Fig, you watch as behind Matilda, you see just a sudden surge of rats spill out onto the deck and immediately begin spilling forth in a massive wave. And we'll find out what happens when we come back from our break. All right. I know there's a lot of people that are not happy with the state of the Evangeline, both in the Dawnbringers and in chat. So there seems to be a sufficient level of confusion and a bit of frustration and anger here. So we'll deal with this accordingly when we get back after the break. We are going to, we're going to take ourselves a brief break. I need to, where did it go? I do, real quick before we go to break, just want to thank everybody who's been joining us in the chat and all you wonderful people that have donated and subscribed and all of that to these domain dice that I'm absolutely positive they won't need to use at all during this session. So where did my software go? There it is. Okay, now we're all set. We're going to go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and we will see you right back on the other side of this break. And we're back. Rats are spilling up from below decks, literally swarming around your feet. Drown as you're sort of halfway between decks, spilling into the infirmary and where you are, Thorgarn. Enough for you to be concerned. It's not just 1 or 2 or 5 or 6. It's dozens and dozens spilling into this area. Drown, it's literally hundreds. Cantriel and Fig, you're seeing hundreds, if not 1,000 or more rats spilling out onto the deck of the ship. We're going to go to the furthest away points, to Thorgarn, then Talmud and Griveth. How do you react to the rats?
Sorry, I
Thorgarn?
couldn't get the mic on properly.
Oh.
So at first it's going to be, all right, a couple of rats, no big deal. And then it's like, what the hell? So he quickly turns the anvil back into the hammer. I guess, he can't really don his armor. So I'll, grab the satchel of everything, toss it over his shoulder, and, try to head over to the infirmary, which you said it was across the hallway, and go see what's going on there where his, cousin is.
Talmud and Griveth, Thorgarn comes barreling into the infirmary.
What?
Is he like wading through rats at this point?
He is absolutely wading through rats.
Where this little Griveth rolls over, is like, what is going on?
Anyone know where all these things are coming from?
That's what I was going to ask you. You're the one who just came in here.
Well, they're in my room too.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Were they on the ship before?
Where'd all these rats come from?
Drown, you can hear all this. It's literally like 15, 20 feet away from you.
And so these rats are just sort of flowing around me, not really interested in trying to chew me down to the skeleton or anything like that?
Nope. They are moving
That's-
past you, trying to get out
That's
of...
good.
Are they just frenzied and just running wherever they think is safe, or like they're not just all running to the top and bailing ship?
You
right?
don't know what's happening up top.
Okay.
All you know is
Well,
there's
yeah, I don't, right.
a
But-
continuous... In Drown, the flow coming up from the lower deck has not let up.
All right, this is... Yeah, okay. This is not just a bunch of rats on the ship. This is... This is a bag of holding, or a portal to the elemental plane of rats has opened up, and it's just spewing out at us. This is not normal. I'm going to stick with my plan and try and gather up all the Dawnbringers as best I can.
Are
So
the rats real? Like, if I kick them, do I feel them? If I squish them, do they squish and die?
squeak, squeak, squeak.
So, sorry, what was that?
I said, are they real? If I like kick at them as they crawl past, do I feel a rat? If I smack it with a hammer, does it die? Like, is it a real? Are they real rats?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you
So-
feel them, you kick at them, and a couple of them go skittering and slamming against the bulkheads. You bring your hammer down, and you kill 3 or 4 of them in one blow.
So Talmud and I don't have our armor on, right?
No,
where
you
my
strip
armor
down.
Okay, so
I don't think Talmud has anything on currently.
so Griveth like looks at the rats. It kind of snaps him out of his melancholy. He looks at the rats. He looks over at Talmud, and then looks down and says, "We better get our armor on."
It's going to take you 10 minutes if you're going to try to put your armor on.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to
Speak
put
for
my armor
yourself.
on.
I don't wear armor.
You need at least pants, though, cousin.
I can imagine like the rats are
Well,
crawling all everything. I'm like lifting,
That's
lifting up
debatable.
plates and pieces,
Well,
and
I mean, you don't
Oh,
want to
absolutely,
rats
Griveth.
are flying everywhere. Bouncing off the walls. Yeah, nasty. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to grab all my gear, my armor.
Yeah, Talmud like grabs like the heap of his clothes and just like makes himself partially decent for the moment. And
So while all this is going on, Drown is like slogging through this torrent of rats, stops and like leans into the infirmary, is about to say something, just sort of looks at, naked Talmud grabbing up all of his stuff, naked, salved up Griveth grabbing all of his stuff, just kind of looks between the two of them, shakes his head, and points up toward the deck.
Thorgarn
completely
will,
expected at this point.
I'm trying to get my armor on. Okay.
No time. Come on.
Thorgarn will follow Drown.
Thorgarn, so you didn't try to put any armor on?
No, I've got my stuff in,
Okay.
Whatnot.
There's
So
no
I just
time.
got my
Things
boots
are
on, and I'm
happening-
just grabbing the rest of the stuff.
Things are happening way faster
After
than heavy
Drown
armor can
buzzed
get
in.
put on.
Back on the deck, Cantriel and Fig, you see this seething sea of rats spilling forth onto the deck. And in this just swarm of brown matted fur, you, Fig, see the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of red eyes of these rats, and they seem to meld together into an orangish fiery glow as you see the light of your fiery scimitars in your hands glistening off of the cavern walls. You see nearby a pair of limestone skinned creatures, each resembling what looks like an octopus with a thick membrane connecting the tentacles, hovering about you and your drow companion. One of these creatures is evading the many arrows loosed by the dark elf, and at your feet sits the flayed corpse of one of these creatures that you have just slain, its blood dripping from the scimitars in your hand. The drow glances over at you and shouts, "Look out!" But before you can react, a darkness envelops your head. Your vision goes black, and in an instant, you feel a sensation, Fig, that you have never felt before. But at the same time, you know what it is. You're suffocating. You can't breathe. You feel your lungs in your chest grasping for air that is suddenly snuffed out by whatever it is that has completely enveloped your head. And your vision fades completely to black and seems to swim before your eyes. And suddenly you're there on the deck with these rats spilling out around you. Fig and Cantriel, or rather at this point Cantriel, because Fig has suddenly shifted his attention again in that similar fugue state. What are you doing, Cantriel?
I am swiping the rats away from us with my rapier. It's like rat kebabs.
And it is. I mean, you stick your rapier into this, trying to keep them away, and come back with 4 or 5 at a time, skewered on the end. Flicking it one way, their bodies go flying into the sea over the deck. Victor comes hurtling down from above, his eye rays blasting into the rats, causing confusion, and whatever else he can do. It seems, if anything, to be agitating the rats more than helping.
Oh, God. There are words I want to say, but it's PG-13.
I never said it was PG-13. That's only during charity streams.
Don't tempt me, Jake, because there's a string of them.
You've both, and by both I'm meaning you and Talmud, have said very, very not PG-13 things.
Yes, but they've been one at a time. This is
What?
about 5 or 6 strung together poetically.
You do you. That's all I'm going to say. As this is happening, you also see Drown sort of wading through these, coming up from below decks, struggling to move through them like a thick mud as he surfaces, sort of shouting over his shoulder at the others to hurry up and get up there. Tamiko has used a highlighted message to say, make all the swears, V. All the swears. Anyway, what would you like to do? Or say?
Oh, at this point, she's just looking at everyone. What the fuck is happening here? And why what are these things? Why? What? Like, she's just like stabbing and throwing and like literally just trying to even like keep an open area because she sees that Fig's gone bye-bye mode again. So trying to keep Fig safe. And then it's just Ratapalooza.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
We just dropped him.
Well,
Okay,
you said we lost.
why?
We really did lose Fig. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
Fig has gone bye-bye, Egon.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Now our windows look like the inside of Fig's mind.
Here comes
Fig fell
Fig.
through the deck.
Hey,
Okay,
hey, look, we're good.
All right. Fig woke up. Everything's good.
Yep, Jeremy flip. There you go, then Ted, then Jeremy. You guys know what to do. So, oh, my chair just broke again. Just gonna lean the other way. I look slightly shorter. One of my wheels just broke off. Anyway, yeah. So, in addition to Drown, come up on the deck. Thorgarn, more like waist deep in these rats, comes up with Talmud carrying a bundle of his stuff behind, and Griveth sort of half in his armor, the sword belt for Dawnbringer and everything kind of slung over his shoulder. Everything just sort of a jumble as he comes in there. I'm going to go ahead and give you another domain die. There we go. As you all rise up onto the deck, you notice now, as you're looking around, these rats. Just as Griveth comes up onto the deck, it seems that the very last of the rats comes up. All of the rats move towards the bow of the ship. And as these rats are moving, you feel the Evangeline listing as their weight shifts. Hundreds and thousands of rats move from one side to the other and towards the front. You actually feel the front end of the Evangeline dipping down a little bit. The rats move towards the bow and they rise up onto the forecastle deck. And you see as the rats begin piling up atop one another. And they seem to almost be spilling in towards one another. And as rats continue adding to this pile, it doesn't seem to grow anymore. It grows to a height of about 6.5 feet. And you watch as it takes on a form, a humanoid form. Several dozen rat tails are leaning back like this, and they form into long, flowing, grayish hair. As a humanoid figure stands before you, wearing red and black robes, long, flowing gray hair, a long gray goatee, and what looked to be some sort of almost artificer goggles. But they have dark lenses in gold frames, and around the sides there's these shields that also have dark lenses in the sides. And the cloak sort of billows out, and he sort of gives a shake, and the last couple rats scurry up under his robes as he turns and looks at all of you. So, it is you, Dawnbringers. At last, we meet face to face. I am Gothias. What would you like to do? I don't know what you said, Scotty, because you were muted, but you said it very with much gusto.
What?
Which of the rats was Golthias? I mean, like we're gonna fight him, right?
He's walking forward. He's so quite a ways away from where all of you were, because he was up on the forecastle deck. He takes a step forward and just sort of shifts his robes slightly behind him, and he's wearing a very outdated yet still elegant, almost like a suit underneath his robes. And he steps forward towards the railing and he begins to walk down the stairs. I thought it was time that we have a face-to-face meeting. What's that?
So you just want this over quickly? Is that what I'm hearing?
So bold. Typical the dwarven spirit. You must be applauded. You've shown a lot of bravery thus far. Sure.
What you want.
We can fight if you want. I would expect nothing less from the dwarves, but I have business with that one and that one and possibly this one. And
So
he
who is he
points
pointing
first to Griveth, second to Cantriel, and third to Fig. Do you have it on you, Paladin? Do you carry the blade with you? The one that shattered the tree?
So, is the ship still listing?
No, it was just reacting to all of the
okay.
movement of the rats.
Okay. And the ship is like, we're close to shore, right? We're not like out in the middle of the ocean.
You can no longer see the island through the fog.
Oh, okay.
You know you're
gotcha.
at least a few hundred feet off the shore anyway.
Okay. But I guess if we wouldn't necessarily know where it was if we couldn't see it. Yes. I bring your destruction with me.
You call it my destruction, but it was that blade that freed me from below the earth. For that, you are to be commended. I offer you an opportunity, Paladin. Whatever oath do you hold so dear now? Whatever god you serve, it pales in comparison to the powers that I can offer to you. Break your oath, Paladin, and swear allegiance to me, and you will see power like you have never seen before.
I think the fact that I'm here and I'm hunting you is all the proof you need that I won't be joining you.
Perhaps not voluntarily. I shall see. Very well. What of you? Cantriel, Serpentina. Did you know why it is that you are so important to the followers of Ashardalon?
I have an inkling.
An inkling. I think if you knew your true nature, you would have joined us long ago.
Highly doubtful, considering you took my family away from me.
You think that we took your family? What makes you think they didn't come willingly?
Because you're the type who likes to make up little stories to make themselves look better.
And yet, how much did your father tell you about his origins? About where he came from?
You see, there's a problem with this story already. There's someone telling the story from someone else who can't tell their side. Already it's skewed and broken.
Gothias. His hair seems to sort of... And in an instant, he's no longer standing there. He's standing right next to you, Cantriel. The blood of the dragon flows through your veins. And he's right back where he was. None of you saw Gothias move. Cantriel, only you sensed this instantaneous shift of position as he just whispered this to you.
She'll reply back in Draconic, you still can't have it.
And in Draconic, he says to you, if you won't give it willingly, I'll take it. And then in Common, he says, and I'll take your metal friends as souvenirs as well. I've let you wander through my home and get as far as you have, just so I could get the measure of you. Now, I think it's time we end this.
Well, next time just send a letter. I'm a size 6. I'm tired of you. I'm tired of what you mean. I'm tired of who you are. I'm tired of what you do to people around you. Of course, I'm not going to give you anything. Why would I make it easier for you when you've made it only harder for others?
So is it smashing time yet?
Kill him for all I care.
Yeah, what she said.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna roll for initiative.
So Jake, this is all technically pre-long rest, right?
So here's where it gets weird. You are all fully rested.
Interesting.
You have all of your hit points back. You have all of your spell slots back.
Does the helm have all 3 charges? Because those recover at dawn.
It does not.
So are we rolling initiative, or am I getting a throw off?
You are rolling for initiative because he is ready for an attack. All right, I'll get your numbers in just a moment. Uh-oh. Oh. I thought something went wonky with the stream. Nope, just D&D Beyond. Come on. There we go. And here we go. We'll use that. Okay. Griveth. What you got?
I got a natural 20, so I got a 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drown.
Drown has an 18.
Cantriel.
8.
Fig.
14.
Thorgarn.
15.
Talmud.
Also got a 21, and I'm letting Griveth have it.
Right. All right, and then whoop. First die I roll, and I throw it on the floor. Let's try a different one. All right, so that's going to be okay. Griveth, what are you going to do? You're muted.
Shoot. Sorry. Okay. Of course, Dawnbringer comes loose. It's like kind of a epic draw. Shing.
You draw Dawnbringer?
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you draw Dawnbringer, it is not light that spills forth in the 30-foot radius, but darkness.
Oh! Bam. Griveth, this unexpected turn of events throws Griveth into a flashback of at the top of the tower when he's lashed to the top of this tower and the dark forces are streaming through him and like pulling at him, trying to tear him away from himself, make him the servant of this dark being. And when he sees this dark energy fly from the sword and swirl about, Griveth just kind of seizes up and like almost goes catatonic and like just lets go of the sword, and it just bounces to the deck as he just kind of he just goes catatonic. He just freezes for his turn.
In the moment when the blade was illuminated, you took 12 points of necrotic damage. It immediately goes out as it lands on the deck, and I'll give you a point of inspiration for that action as well.
Thanks.
Talmud.
Talmud has been expecting that things were going to turn this way from the moment that the rats kind of coalesced. So he is going to, now that it's apparent that it's go time, he's going to just toss the kind of the wad of clothing off to the side, pulling just Ghost Cleaver. and all his glory is going to charge at this rat bastard and, of course, recklessly attack him.
We need art of this battle with a naked Talmud.
Do you really want to see that, Jake?
I was going to say, I
just want to see those improvised ham hocks from as he's running towards Golthias.
His tattooed self. They go all the way. That's a dirty 20 on the first attack.
Okay. Yep, that is going to hit.
Excellent. And the second attack will be a 27.
All right.
The first is going to be 10 points of magical slashing. And the second will be 13 points magical slashing.
As you strike into Golthias, your weapon easily breaking through any defenses he might have. As your second attack cleaves through, you rip his chest open. He falls to the ground. As his body hits the ground, you see the ship's bosun, Arnold, lying at your feet. Behind all of you, you hear... I've been toying with you up until this point. And Gothias now stands at the stern of the ship.
I think Talmud, like looking down and seeing that, and kind of looking back and seeing that he's now elsewhere, and the ruse has been kind of revealed. He's going to turn to Cantriel, tell everyone to get off the ship right now.
She'll screech in the most high-pitched, loud voice possible. Off the ship, abandon ship now, don't care where you are, what you're doing. This ship is sinking, go.
Cantriel, you notice for the first time that since Gothias showed up, all of the crew have been standing frozen in place, watching everything that's happening, and nobody is moving. Not only are they not moving, they don't appear able to move. And Drown, it is your go.
Cool. Where is Gulthias at this point? Just behind us on the deck?
He's on the what's it called? The quarter deck.
Yeah.
The on the upper
the aft castle.
Yeah, the aft castle. So he's up on the stern of the ship.
Poop deck.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. I don't have the ship schematics in front of me right now.
All right. So this has just been like one giant nightmare scenario. So I'm going to wrap my staff on the deck and cast Dispel Magic on Gulthias. That's at 5th level. So
one moment.
if he has any spells up, maybe I can do something.
Okay, so he raises a hand and just as if he's brushing away a fly, counterspells you.
Okay. Well, that's what I got then.
Thorgarn.
So the crewman that Talmud attacked, is he down? Is he dead?
He's dead. His chest is ripped open.
So like gone, nothing to save him, or can I attempt to heal him?
The light appears to have left his eyes.
So I'm going to go up and I am going to grapple Gulthias.
Okay. Okay. So that is going to be a contested athletics check. All right. Natural 1.
That's a 26, 18 on the die.
You charge up and you charge up these stairs and you grab him easily around the waist and you have him firmly held.
Does it feel like what it looks like?
It does.
How much did I have to move to get to him?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I was going to start moving him. Whatever is left, I can move him at half speed towards the party. I have a speed of 35.
You got maybe 10 feet, so you could get him to the edge of the stairs.
All right.
He is going to attempt to bite you.
Probably be easy since I'm not wearing armor.
That's gonna be a 16.
That does it.
And that is going to do. So you're going to take 6 points of piercing, and you're going to take 9 points of necrotic damage, and your hit point maximum goes down by 9 points. Yes.
How do I?
Struggle against me, Thorgarn. Do what you will. And as you get him near the top of the stairs, and you all see as he just leans down and bites into Thorgarn, you see him say something, and then he rises up, and you see Thorgarn's blood dripping down from his fangs. And Fig, it is your turn.
That is
That's a free action.
Yeah, that's a free action. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. I think Fig is going to take his hat off, and he kind of lifts the hat up in the air, and what comes out of it is a scroll, and he's going to use the scroll of Illusory Dragon and cast that.
Oops.
So I create a huge shattering dragon in an unoccupied space that you can see within range.
So where exactly are you making this illusory dragon appear?
Well, it depends. If it's I want to do it like in so that the dragon is
it's huge.
Yeah, well,
so it's going to take up, I think it's a 4x4, like a 10 foot by 10 or 20 foot by 20 foot space. So you can either make it appear on the back of on the stern deck, or you can make it appear between you and them, or you can make it appear on the foredeck.
I think on the foredeck.
Huge is 15, but yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It's 15. Thanks. So what does this look like as you summon it?
I imagine that as Fig casts this, because this is not one of his normal spells from the huge book that Copernicus gave to him, it looks very different. It doesn't have the usual cogs and gears that coalesce or come together or glow. And in fact, you almost see Fig's the blue magic that flows through these tubes on him almost turns this dark black color. And you see his eyes for a moment just become black, and you see he opens where his mouth would be, and this shadow just comes, is extruded from his mouth, this mass, and it coalesces together in the shape of this dragon.
Very
and
well.
Gothias has to make a wisdom saving throw.
Natural 20.
Reroll. We're gonna, yeah. I also made a bet, so I want to see that bet go through and how many domain dice
Well,
you're gonna use.
I'm not going to cause you to burn a domain die because he's going to use his legendary resistance to succeed automatically on this
That's
saving
fair.
throw.
Okay.
But it might be worth making him expend those uses if you want to, because that's limited.
Yep. Yeah, I will make him do that. And so, yeah, and Thorgarn is right there on, yeah.
So just to be clear, because I want to make sure you put it in the right spot, at the rear of the ship is Thorgarn and Gothias. And you put the dragon at the front of the ship.
Oh, sorry, I meant
Okay.
that.
Based
Yeah.
on what you just said, I think there was a confusion. So you want it in the same place.
Yep.
He
Okay.
wants the dragon to be able to attack this thing.
Yep. Perfect. It looks like you can, as a bonus action on your turn.
Yeah, but it creates a cone, and I didn't want to hit Thorgarn
Okay.
with it.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to, obviously.
Yeah.
All right.
How tall is this guy?
The dragon or Gothias?
The Gothias.
About 6'5".
Okay, that's some
Um,
precise aiming. Never mind.
it is now Gothias's turn. And Gothias is going to okay. Thorgarn,
Yes, sir.
I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. As you feel a surge of negative energy begin to course through your body.
Did he get my bonus?
He's too far away from you.
Gotcha.
19.
Let me check the save on that. Where is it? Spellcaster. Okay, so you're only going to take half of this, which currently is 14, 15, 20. 27, 31 plus 30, 61. So you're going to take 31 points of necrotic damage as Gothias touches you with a single finger, casting Finger of Death upon you. And that is going to be his turn. So now it is Cantriel's turn.
She's watching him do this to all of her companions, and you see her pick up Semper Cavatina and draw an arrow. And there's almost this cold, calculating expression on her face, but her eyes are almost glowing with their own green fire as she pulls the arrow back and murmurs in Draconic, "Swift death to you who have wronged me." And she releases her first arrow at Gothias. And let's see here. Does a 23 hit?
A 23 does hit. Okay, he already used his reaction. Okay. Yes, 23 hits.
Okay. Pardon me, I need to calculator because the mathing in my brain right now is I'm a little tired.
Didn't he just take his turn?
Is it per turn or through the round?
Reactions? You get your reaction back.
Oh, that's right. When after you take your turn. Okay.
Start of your turn.
Still. So what's the
so that's going to be 17 for the first go around. And then just as quickly as the first arrow.
It's 17 you said?
17 piercing.
1 second. I need to do something. You watch as you shoot this arrow at him, and with his free hand that he just touched Thorgarn with, you see him reach for the arrow and almost snag it out of the air. But the arrow instead goes through, it pierces his hand. And he just looks in that brief moment at the hole in his hand and then looks towards you as you line up your second shot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just as he's catching it, she's already letting loose the second. And in this case, it is going to be a 19 to hit.
Yep. So cinematically, as he holds his hand up to look through that hole, he sees you already loosing the arrow. Almost imagine the camera moving through the wound towards you as you loose the arrow. The arrow passes by the camera. We spin around and see the arrow strike Gulthias.
23 piercing.
All right. That's what, 40 points with 2 hits?
Yes, and she has her bonus action still, and she turns these eerie, pupilless eyes to Griveth. Now is your chance to do what Eldath wants you to do. And she's giving you bardic inspiration.
As you end your turn, Gulthias is going to use a legendary action. And he is going to... there it is. With that same free hand, he's going to look down at you, Thorgarn. I think it's time you let me go. And he's going to punch you in the head, or attempt to anyway. That is a natural 20.
You can reroll that, please.
Okay, so 2 domain dice. That is a 16 on the die. So
crit, so that hits.
So that is going to be, yeah, that would be like 25 to hit. So you are going to take 8 points of bludgeoning damage, and I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
It's going to be 25.
As he punches you, you feel more than, like the punch, you've been hit harder than this before, but there's something behind his punch. And you feel as though, as he draws his fist back, he's attempting to drain some of your life energy, but he fails as he pulls his fist back. And it is now back to the top of the order. Griveth, it is your turn. Cantriel has hollered out a bardic inspiration to you as you're in this sort of post-shock catatonia.
Okay, so Griveth or Cantriel's words suddenly pull Griveth out of his funk, and he quickly glancing at the smoking black sword on the deck, he remembers the sword that started it all, his companion through many adventures until he attained Dawnbringer, and that's Sir Bradford's honor. And this is the time for Sir Bradford's honor to shine. This is the time to get revenge for the death of this poor soul who was enslaved by this creature. So Griveth screws his courage to the sticking place, runs in, drawing Sir Bradford's honor, glinting in the light, and he is going to attack this fiend.
All right.
If you do a super crit, is it do you have to get a crit first, or you can
Nope, you just have to get a hit.
Crit? You just got to get a hit. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so Sir Bradford's honor. Let's do this, sir. Okay. First attack is 16.
That hits.
Oh, does it? Okay. I am going to do a super crit. I am going to smite.
Don't forget the extra D8 from Bardic Inspiration.
Oh, yeah. That's just attack, not damage, right?
Well, that'll add, the D8, but since it's a super crit.
Yeah, you can add it to the damage.
Oh, can you? Okay. Ooh, I didn't realize.
And
okay.
Steph and TJ just wants you to succeed. You got another 5 domain dice.
Oh, wow. That was nice. Thank you so much. Okay.
Let's tier here.
So.
It's ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, not to damage.
Oh, you're not a Valor?
No, I am Valor. So
Valor
then it should be the damage. We've established that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have combat inspiration as well. The thing you were looking at was the regular.
That's what I was looking at. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So super crit would be ×2, right?
Max damage ×2.
Yep.
Okay.
Double max damage, which basically Steph and TJ just gave you that super crit.
Yes. 116 damage.
116 damage?
Yes. I max smited.
So Griveth goes charging up the stairs, across the deck and up the stairs, I imagine there's a light rain that has just begun to fall. Griveth hears Cantriel's words and pushes himself up from the deck, and where I imagine you had sort of in this state had dropped to one knee, you pull yourself up, reaching over past the hilt of the Dawnbringer to your sword belt where Sir Bradford's honor is, and we just hear this shing as you pull it out of its sheath, and already you stand up and your hair, you sort of flip back and you go running towards the stairs, charging upward. And as you bring Sir Bradford's honor in for the strike, the rain seems to be landing on and absorbing into the blade, as if Eldath herself is using the running water to bless your strike, and it charges it up for this smite. And the full power of Eldath strikes into Gulthias. Thorgarn, you go flying backwards, skittering across the deck. There's this moment, Griveth, as your sword pierces into Gulthias, where there's a and all of the rain is pushed out in a 10-foot diameter circle around you, and time seems to momentarily freeze. Outside of this circle, inside, it's just you and Gulthias. Your blade, you're holding it, and it's already beginning, you feel it cleaving through at his neck and cleaving down. It's moving slowly as he just glances at this where the blade's cutting in, and he looks at you. There's still time, Griveth. Renounce your devotion to this weak god and join me. Break your oath. Take a new oath to the heart of Ashardalon.
You have my answer.
When we meet again, I will ask you one more time. And if your answer is still no, you will die. And just like that, this blast, you're thrown backwards against the rigging at the on this deck, which keeps you from going overboard. The rain seems to let up almost instantly. You all look around. Gulthias is nowhere to be seen. You glance over to where Arnold, the bosun, was lying on the deck, and he's not there. You look around, and none of the crew is there. The body of Robin, the crewman who fell to his death, is gone. Victor is nowhere to be seen. Griveth, you feel the wet of the rain on your forehead. Talmud, you ache. Your body aches all over. All of you are weary. Griveth, you feel the wetness against your forehead again. And you feel something pressing lightly against your head. And you're reminded of a time long ago when somebody tended to your wounds. They pressed a cool cloth to your forehead to help break a fever. And you open your eyes, Griveth. You are lying inside a room. Stone walls surround you. Next to you, right nearby, you see Drown, just beginning to stir. Nearby is Talmud, Thorgarn, Cantriel. There's Fig. His lights are dim. He sits on the floor, knees up, head slightly tilted to one side. The metal of his body is pockmarked, scorched, melted in places. Talmud has blisters and wounds all over his body. Looking down, you see where your armor has been pulled off and your shirt opened up. You have tattered cloth, cold, with some kind of salve all across your wounds. You see Cantriel nearby, bandaged up, just beginning to stir. All of you are now starting to come to consciousness. Your skin hot. And you feel the cool of the stone near you or around you. And as you all begin to open your eyes, you see that you're not alone in this room. There are at least 8 Giralon. Griveth, you look up. You see a Giralon much larger than any of the others, holding this cold cloth in one hand. Another hand lightly traces and repositions some of the poultices across your chest. With its third arm, it's wringing out a cloth and putting it on Talmud's forehead, seeing you begin to stir awake. And at this point, you're all, Fig, you sort of, you kind of come to a bit. And this large Girlon face sort of turns and leans slightly towards you, Griveth.
No fear. Take care of you. Help you.
And you all hear this. It's broken, rough, common. What would you do?
So looking around, what like room are we in? Just sort of an empty room otherwise?
So the room you are in... Where did it go? Come on. The room you are in... not showing up for some reason. All right, let me do a quick check on the size of this room. The room you are in is about 5, 10, 15, 20, about 30 by 30 feet. And there are there's not a lot in the way of things in this room except for some low stone shelves that have an odd assortment of trinkets on them, but the shelves are near where several pieces of stone that have been broken from various parts that look like they come from the spire, from elsewhere in the spire. They're arranged that in a way that forms a sort of crude seat, and there is a Girlon seated there. This Girlon, seeing you all begin to rise, stir, walks forward, kind of barks something in a gorilla, and the others, some of the others on the side, Cantriel, you see some of these that were nearby. You were kind of immediately on edge when you saw these. They seem to move into a position of protection near the doorways with their backs to you. And this large Girlon moves forward, looking at all of you.
You are the ones who come to kill the vampire. Yes.
Yes.
We are.
You, one they call Dawnbringer.
Close enough.
Thief. My Girlon. No fear. We help you kill vampire.
Why do you wish to help us?
Girlon, enslaved by cult of dragon for as long as can remember. Some of us hide away in tunnels. Thief, learn from father. Come and speak. Thief, learn to help when can. We want our home back. This belong to us. Vampire. Cult. Steal home. Darkness. Evil. Once gone, you help. We help you.
It shall be yours again. There was a woman with us. Do you know where she is?
No. Find the woman. My Dillon, look for woman. Only find this. Go! Go! Go!
And one of the Girolons skitters over towards the where the arrangement of shelves are, grabs something and comes over and hands it to Thif, who takes it and with one of her other hands unwraps the cloth around what you immediately recognize to be Yesha's journal. The only thing different from it is that there is a bloodstain on it. Sorry, Dan, you were saying something?
Sorry. Where did you find us?
You were in crematorium. Fire Guardian was killing you. We came. And we fight Fire Guardian. And we take you down into tunnels.
And about this time, you notice that Thif and some of the other Girolons have burns and singed fur of their own.
Well, we thank you for your help.
So, that whole thing on the ship, I look around to try and gauge the reactions of my companions. Was that
nightmare?
Fig is going to look in his hat to see if that scroll that he used is there or not.
You pull your hat off.
Charges on my helmet.
And you find the scroll of Shadow Dragon. And Drown, you have not used any charges on your Helm of Teleportation. You are all fully healed. Any negative effects that happened from the damage is not actually present. You have been cared for and can assume that at least 8 hours has passed in the care of the Girolons.
So what we experienced, would that be something like a dream spell?
It was very, as you're sort of kind of coming to, you're realizing that the feeling you have is very similar to when you came out of the tapestry. You're not sure what it is, but it's a very powerful, illusory type of magic.
I think Talmud is going to kind of sit up on this place where he's kind of been resting, kind of look around at everything that's being said, take it in. He's just going to shake his head. I've had enough of this shit. He's going to reach over and pick up his weapon. Where does Gothias sleep?
Did anybody take the journal that the Girolon held out, Yesha's journal?
Cantriel would have.
Oh yeah, I thought it was handed to someone.
She just held Thif just held it out. She didn't necessarily give it to anybody, but if Cantriel took it.
Cantriel, are there any clues in it? Maybe she left us a note before she got grabbed or nabbed.
Yeah, I'll start thumbing through it.
You begin flipping through Yesha's journal, and you see a lot of sketches, incomplete sketches of all of the Dawnbringers. In the early parts of the journal, there's a lot of field notes. It looks like she was out just doing exploration, and a lot of entries about various forests, berries, flowers, animals. And then it transitions into portraits and sketches of each of you that are sort of in the margins of where she's literally been chronicling what you all have been doing. One of the last entries that you find is where she basically was chronicling as you were moving through the crematorium and how quiet it was, and the monsters didn't seem to be eager to attack. And then the last thing that's written there is, "This could be trouble." And then you do notice, though, that there is a page sticking partway out near the back of the book. It seems to be loose, like it's been pulled from somewhere else within the book and tucked in the back. Just before that section where you've seen her open it up before, and sure enough, you would see where her thieves' tools are kept. And they are there in this compartment, in this cutout. What you find on this page, Cantriel, is a single sheet of paper that seems to, this sort of parchment that seems to have been pulled from this journal. It's very worn. It looks like it's been folded and unfolded many times. And this is what it says. I am Yesha Folkin of Dry Lake. I am 19 years of age. I am a human girl. This time. Before that, I was Mickle Brightmane. I was 45 years of age. I was a gnomish boy. That time. Before that, I was a dwarven girl. Not yet mature. My name was Berlinyai. My clan was G'dan. Before that, I was born. As you're reading this, Cantriel, you hear next to you Fig make a sound that you have never heard before. It's a gasp, which is very peculiar because Fig doesn't gasp, because Fig doesn't have lungs. Fig stiffens. Fig, you are standing on a cliff edge at the mouth of a small cave, from which you must have just emerged. Before you is an awe-inspiring sight. An immense structure of bizarre and precise make, carved from the stuff of some other world entirely. A faint shimmer glistens off of the angular walls of this incredible fortress. A subtle and irregular pulse aches on your mind as you stand before it, sensing some disturbance emanating from it. This fortress is suspended in a grand cave in this underdark realm, hovering above the blue glow of the cavern's floor. The bioluminescence of the Underdark's fauna shines off of the immaculate fortress before you. though you notice that in parts where the form of the fortress brushes against or cuts into the wall of the cavern, the plant life is dead, withered away. Is that it, Githzerai? Your drow companion asks. Is that the adamantine citadel? You feel a wave of triumph and belonging rush over you, only for your vision to begin to fade, and with it, that sense of belonging. All of you see suddenly as every single seam of Fig's being begins to leak this blue magical light that holds him together. It almost looks as if it's spilling out of him onto the floor, but when it hits the ground, it's not a pool, but it forms into an intricate and complex sigil. Magic far beyond, even as you look down, Fig, and your vision struggles to hold these two views in your mind. One of this adamantine fortress in the Underdark, and one of this sigil forming at your feet. The complex runes and magic in this sigil is like nothing you have ever seen before. And before you can even say or voice anything, you all watch as Fig falls through the floor, through this sigil. The exact instant another sigil appears on the ceiling directly above, 20 feet above where Fig was. And a humanoid form drops to the ground where Fig just was a moment ago. You hear the metallic clattering as two scimitars, glowing embers at their edges, skitter across the floor. And a humanoid form lies unconscious at your feet. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session. So,
Bye, Fig.
This exit of Fig has been something we have been, well, we being M and I, and M didn't know fully what was going on. It is something that we have been planning for a little while, because we've known that M is going to leave us for a short period of time. For at least the next month, M will not be joining us, and potentially have additional absences beyond that. But fear not, for Zachary, the heir to the MTD Empire, will be joining us in Fig's place. Who exactly Zachary will be playing, we will have to see. But I do want to give credit.
I have a guess.
Right. I do want to give full credit. All of the interludes that for the last 3 or 4 sessions, at least, that Fig has been having, have been written by Zachary. It was something I tasked him with, and so I want to give full credit. I think Zach did a tremendous job developing all of that stuff and helping to pave the way. So when we return next week, Zachary will be joining us. We will, of course, miss you while you are gone, but we know that you are going to be doing some pretty awesome things, and we look forward to hearing from you when you return. This session, I hope you all enjoyed, because I put you through the ringer again, and at least a couple of bombs have been dropped. You landed in, or rather awoke to find that most of what happened was but a dream. You are in the care of some Girlons. Fig is now gone, and Cantriel has just read a letter that she may not fully realize the importance of. But we'll see how that all develops when we return next week. In Dawnbringers, I will provide you with after the session here, I'll provide you with the image that is the page from the book, so you have it and we can go from there. So again, I just want to say a huge thank you. As always, we appreciate you in the audience, whether you're one of the vocal many or you're one of the silent lurkers in the background. It doesn't matter. We appreciate you joining us every week. And of course, we are tremendously thankful to all of you who show your support through bits donations, tips, and through the subscription system, following any form. But all of those tips, bits, subscriptions, all of that stuff goes in to help me keep Mini Terrain Domain going, continuing to provide some awesome stuff, and the production values that we bring for you. So I thank you for that. It's just awesome to see you all reacting in the chat to everything that's happening as it's happening. And just as a little treat, because I know people haven't all seen this, I couldn't do this I didn't have the room yet to do this. I wanted to use miniatures and terrain, but this is the actual Evangeline that you have been sailing on. This is something, the YouTube channel has a sort of tour and a photo montage of the parts list of this. It's probably been like 4 years ago now that I built this completely from scratch, with never understanding anything about ships. But this is the ship you've all been sailing on. There's the symbol of the Vieros on the sails. This is the yard arm that broke off and Robin appeared to have died, and you can almost see where Drown came rising up from below. But I wanted to show everybody that, since it was a part. Oh, there goes my chair. For anybody that's interested, I have a Ko-Fi specifically for a new chair. But yeah, the wheel broke out and now it's just kicked out on me. So there I go. I'm not exaggerating that. So with that, I also want to say, of course, a tremendous thank you to Scotty, Dan, V, M, Ted, and Jeremy, without whom it's just me talking to myself for 3 hours. And an extra special thank you and a we'll see you later to M, as we wish you well on your endeavors, and we'll see you when you return. So with that, we are going to end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
Elder? I failed.